Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of sources, articles, and research and really extract the most important nuggets of knowledge to help you become truly well-informed.
That's the goal.
And today we're challenging a really, really common perception. You almost certainly know Adam Smith as the undisputed father of modern economics, right?
Can't avoid that title.
The intellectual powerhouse behind the wealth of nations, the brilliant mind who gave us concepts like the invisible hand, standard stuff.
Yeah, that's what most people know.
But here's the hook, the thing we want to dig into. What if that's only like half the story? What if the true profound power of his philosophy actually extends far beyond just profits and markets?
Right. What if it goes into the very fabric of our personal lives, our ethics, and even the health of our communities?
Exactly.
Indeed. Our mission with this deep dive is to unpack something truly insightful. How Adam Smith's philosophy, especially when we balance his famous The Wealth of Nations with his much lesser known, but I'd argue incredibly profound, The Theory of Moral Sentiments.
Which people rarely talk about in the same breath.
They really don't.
Yeah.
But when you put them together, they offer a remarkably holistic pathway. We're talking about a framework that can genuinely help improve our personal lives, our work ethic, the strength of our communities, and even the economic systems we navigate every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this isn't some dusty, boring academic exercise, far from it. We're going to extract surprising facts and genuinely practical nuggets of knowledge from these really foundational texts. Our goal is basically to provide you with a shortcut to being deeply well-informed about a thinker whose ideas are, maybe surprisingly, incredibly relevant to navigating so many of our modern challenges.
From individual purpose, finding meaning in work.
To broader societal trust, which feels pretty relevant right now.
Definitely.
You're going to gain some serious aha moments, I think. Insights that clarify how individual actions, even seemingly small ones, contribute to the greater good, and how, wisdom from centuries ago can offer surprising clarity for today's complexities.
It's quite powerful when you see the connections.
So let's unpack this. Let's start with a concept that's often, well, let's be honest, it's often misconstrued. This idea of self-interest versus what people sometimes mistakenly call pure selfishness.
Yes, and what's fascinating here is how often Adam Smith's core concept of enlightened self-interest is misinterpreted, or perhaps just only partially understood.
People hear self-interest and immediately jump to greed.
Precisely. But for Smith, this wasn't about pure, unchecked selfishness or greed, despite how it's sometimes caricatured, especially in, political arguments.
Right.
Instead, it was the really powerful idea that when individuals pursue their own goals and interests, but crucially, within a proper framework, they can, often quite unintentionally, contribute profoundly and positively to society.
Okay, so the framework is key.
Absolutely key. And this is the context in which his famous invisible hand truly operates. It's not some magic wand.
Ugh, the invisible hand. Yeah, that phrase conjures up all sorts of images, doesn't it? Sometimes it sounds like some mysterious, almost, magical, unseen force guiding the autonomy from behind a curtain.
Yeah, it can sound that way.
But you're saying it's much more grounded than that, and certainly not some mystical entity pulling strings.
Exactly, much more grounded. For Smith, the invisible hand isn't magic. It's essentially the unplanned yet beneficial social outcomes that naturally result from countless individual actions.
Yeah.
It's the organic outcome of a system where individuals are free to pursue their interests. Now, this freedom, coupled with a degree of rationality, assuming people aren't completely irrational, and responsiveness to accurate market signals.
Like prices or demand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That leads generally to the efficient allocation of resources and ultimately broad societal benefit. It's the natural consequence of millions of individuals making decisions in their own best interest, but, and this is the critical part, within a well-regulated functional system.
Not chaos.
Not chaos at all. It's the opposite of a top-down, centrally planned economy. It's the emergent order that arises from individual choices guided by prices and incentives.
Okay, so just to be clear, it's not a license for unbridled greed or a total free-for-all. It's more like, if you set up the rules of the game correctly, if you have the right structures and ethical norms in place, then individual ambition can naturally serve a larger collective purpose.
That's it, precisely. That's the crucial distinction.
That distinction feels really important.
It is, because this self-interest operates within a robust framework, not a vacuum of lawlessness or, an ethical void. Smith absolutely envisioned a system secured by a just legal framework, one that protects property rights, enforces contracts fairly, and crucially prevents fraud.
The basics of a functioning society, really.
The absolute basics. He believed these governmental roles were crucial guardrails. They allowed enlightened self-interest to flourish without devolving into predatory behavior or monopolies or just exploitation.
Because without that trust, the whole thing falls apart.
It collapses. Without a strong, impartial system of justice, the very trust needed for markets to operate would just evaporate, rendering any enlightened ambition completely moot.
Right.
But when applied correctly, and within these ethical and legal boundaries, this concept can indeed lead to incredible innovation, efficiency, and widespread prosperity across an economy. It's a system designed to channel that powerful human drive productively.
Okay, let's make this really concrete with a classic, easily relatable example. I think this helps clarify it. Think about a local baker in your neighborhood.
Okay, got it. The baker.
Right. Their primary motivation isn't, deep down in their heart of hearts to feed the entire town out of pure benevolence, although they might be a very kind person.
Sure, they probably are, but that's not the main driver.
Their main goal is probably to bake delicious bread, maybe some cakes, some pastries that customers will want to buy. Why? To ensure their livelihood, provide for their family, maybe grow their business.
Makes sense. That's their self-interest.
Exactly. Yet, by pursuing that self-interest, what happens? They provide a valuable, desired service to the community. People get fresh bread. They might employ local workers who then earn wages and spend them locally. They source ingredients, maybe from local suppliers. They contribute to the town's overall food supply and its economic vibrancy.
Right. All these positive side effects.
Yeah. This is a perfect illustration of enlightened self-interest at work, pursuing your own goal, but simultaneously generating a clear, unplanned societal benefit. Nobody decreed that this baker must feed the town. It just happens naturally as a consequence of them pursuing their own success.
Beautifully put. And this brings us directly to the modern takeaway for you, the listener. It's perfectly okay, in fact, it's natural to want personal success, to strive for your own goals. But the Smithian key is to consciously try to align it with the common good.
It's not either.
Definitely not. This isn't a call to selfless altruism over healthy ambition. It's a synergistic approach. It's about finding that sweet spot where your success also lifts others up. Smith saw this as foundational to a thriving society.
Yeah, it's about asking yourself, isn't it? How can my aspirations, my career goals, my financial planning, maybe even just my daily work, how can it create a positive ripple effect? How can I do well in my own life by simultaneously doing good for others, even indirectly?
It's a powerful mindset shift, moving beyond just what's in it for me.
It really is.
And the source material we looked at provides a direct and powerful example of this. It says, running a business that's profitable and socially responsible can uplift you and your community.
Profitable and socially responsible, not one or the other.
Exactly. This is more than just, a nice marketing tagline or some corporate greenwashing. It's a strategic and ethical approach to business that Smith himself, I believe, would have absolutely recognized as vital for long-term success and stability.
So what does socially responsible actually look like in today's complex business landscape? Because it's probably far more than just donating a bit of profit to charity at the end of the year, right?
Oh, absolutely. Much more. It really extends much further and ideally delves into the very operational DNA of a business.
Like how they actually run things day to day.
Precisely. It could involve adopting sustainable production methods that minimize environmental impact, maybe even aiming for regeneration. It could mean ensuring truly fair wages and safe, respectful working conditions for all employees, not just those in the head office, but right across the entire supply chain.
That's a big one.
Huge. It means ethically sourcing raw materials to avoid exploitation or environmental destruction. It might involve investing a portion of profits back into local communities through, say, educational programs or infrastructure support. Or it could mean maintaining complete transparency in all business practices, from pricing and marketing to how they handle data and report their impact.
Wow. Okay, so it's pretty comprehensive.
It's about recognizing that long-term profitability often correlates, quite strongly actually, with positive societal impact. Why? Because businesses that genuinely consider their broader impact often build stronger reputations, they foster greater customer loyalty, they attract and retain top talent who want to work for ethical companies.
And they probably face fewer regulatory headaches or public backlashes down the line.
Exactly. It's about building a business that creates shared value, not just extracting private profit at any cost.
Okay, so let's deep dive into the interplay here, and importantly, the potential pitfalls. We've talked about how enlightened self-interest, when properly framed, can be this amazing force for good. But as you mentioned, it's not a given. It's not automatic.
No, far from it.
So what are the specific conditions under which it truly benefits society? And conversely, what happens when those crucial conditions aren't met? When does it go wrong?
Smith was very clear about this, crystal clear, actually. This process isn't automatic or guaranteed. It's definitely not an excuse for laissez-faire anarchy where anything goes.
Right. The framework matters immensely.
It fundamentally relies on ethical conduct from individuals and businesses, and just as importantly, a robust system of fair rules and impartial justice within the broader society. Without these essential guardrails, without that underlying moral and legal framework, self-interest can indeed, and often does, quickly devolve into harmful selfishness. Pure greed takes over,
Leading to bad outcomes.
leading to highly negative outcomes. We've seen this countless times historically and even recently. You see the formation of monopolies that crush competition and innovation. You see widespread exploitation of labor or natural resources simply for short-term gain with no thought for the future, or significant environmental damage from a complete disregard for long-term consequences.
So the invisible hand needs some very visible guiding principles.
Precisely. It needs a visible, benevolent set of rules, enforced fairly, and an ethical society underpinning it all to truly guide it toward a collective benefit. Without that ethical and legal structure, it can easily become a destructive force, benefiting a few at the expense of many.
That makes a lot of sense. If you remove the ethical framework and the legal guardrails, it just becomes a scramble for power and profit. And those broader societal benefits, the whole invisible hand aspect, they just vanish entirely.
They evaporate. The positive mechanism breaks down.
So thinking about today, how might a greater societal emphasis on enlightened self-interest, really stressing the enlightened part rather than just raw, unthinking self-interest, how might that change how we approach things like entrepreneurship or even just planning our careers in our modern world?
Oh, I think it could lead to a really significant and, frankly, very positive shift. A shift towards more purpose-driven businesses and careers.
Purpose-driven, okay. How so?
Well, imagine if the default mindset for starting a new venture wasn't solely about maximizing personal wealth as quickly as possible, but also involved identifying a pressing societal need. Maybe it's in healthcare, education, sustainability, social equity, whatever it is, and then building a profitable, sustainable solution that genuinely addresses that need.
So the profit comes from solving a real problem.
Exactly. This could foster a whole new wave of innovation focused squarely on solving real-world problems, because addressing those issues would directly align with the entrepreneur's enlightened self-interest of building a successful, resilient business that also, crucially, garners public goodwill and trust.
And for individuals planning careers.
Similarly, in career planning, individuals might increasingly seek roles in organizations where their skills not only bring them personal satisfaction and a good income, but also contribute meaningfully to their community or a cause they deeply believe in. It's about integrating purpose into their professional lives, not seeing it as something separate you do on weekends.
Yeah, moving beyond just what can I get
To, well, what value can I create, and how does that value also benefit me and others? It's a more holistic view of success.
That's a powerful vision, and I think one that resonates deeply with a lot of people today who are definitely looking for more meaning in their work, not just a paycheck.
I think so too.
So, for you, the listener, a question to ponder. We often hear about pursuing personal goals. How do you consciously, or maybe even unconsciously, align your own ambitions with a broader common good in your daily life or career? And thinking about it now, what small adjustments might you consider making to lean more intentionally into that idea of enlightened self-interest? Maybe just take a moment to think about that.
It's a worthwhile reflection.
Because this whole notion of alignment, of balancing self-interest with the common good, it inherently requires a moral compass, right? Some kind of inner guide.
Absolutely.
And that brings us perfectly to Smith's truly profound insights into our inner moral workings, found in his other major, equally significant work, The Theory of Moral Sentiments.
Yes, this is where Smith's genius truly shines beyond purely economic analysis, I think. In The Theory of Moral Sentiments, he meticulously explores the origins and the nature of human morality. He emphasizes our innate capacities for things like empathy, compassion, and most importantly for his framework, introduces the absolutely crucial concept of the impartial spectator.
Okay, let's unpack these. Empathy and compassion seem fairly straightforward. our basic human capacity to connect with others' feelings, feel for them.
The building blocks.
But the impartial spectator, that sounds a bit more complex. It sounds like something out of, I don't know, a psychological drama or maybe even an ancient philosophical treatise.
Yeah.
What exactly does Smith mean by that term, and why is it so fundamental to his whole moral philosophy?
Okay, let's start with the basics, just for clarity. Empathy, as Smith defined it, is essentially our capacity to vicariously experience the feelings of others, to really try and put ourselves in their shoes, to feel what they might be feeling in a given situation.
Okay.
Compassion then naturally follows from that empathy. It's a feeling of sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. But the impartial spectator is indeed the cornerstone here, Smith's brilliant and quite original innovation, I'd say.
And it's not a real person watching you.
No, definitely not. It's not some external judge hovering over us, nor is it a literal person observing our every move. Rather, it's an internalized ideal observer. Think of it as our inner moral compass, the voice of reason and fairness within us.
So it's kind of like a conscience, maybe, but with a more specific objective lens that we develop through interacting with others.
That's a great way to put it, precisely. It's the imagined perspective we adopt when we step back and evaluate our own actions and our own character. It prompts us to consider, how would my behavior appear to a fair, informed, and unbiased individual? Someone who possesses all the relevant facts, but is free from my personal biases, my immediate desires, my own stake in the outcome.
Detached and fair.
Detached and fair. This internal dialogue, this consultation with the impartial spectator, is how we develop self-command, the ability to control our passions. It's how we cultivate fairness in our dealings with others. And it's how we internalize a deep sense of propriety, what is fitting and proper behavior in social situations. Smith believed this mechanism is absolutely fundamental to human social interaction and all ethical decision-making. It provides a vital check on our immediate impulses and our potentially self-serving desires. It's essentially how society's moral norms, reinforced by our interactions with others and our natural desire for their approval and respect, become internalized within us, guiding our actions even when no one else is physically watching. It's our inner arbiter of right and wrong.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for our daily lives, I think, because it makes this potentially abstract, ancient concept surprisingly actionable today. The practical application for you listening is clear from the sources. Use empathy to guide decisions in work, family, and leadership. It's about more than just being nice. It's actually a profound strategic tool for achieving better outcomes and building stronger relationships.
Absolutely. It's deeply practical. Think about its profound application across incredibly diverse contexts. In the workplace, for instance, empathy means truly trying to understand your colleagues' challenges and pressures, not just judging their output. It means anticipating customer needs before they're even explicitly voiced, or navigating conflicts respectfully by actively trying to see the situation from the other person's point of view, recognizing their feelings and motivations, even if you disagree.
Not easy, but valuable.
Not easy, but incredibly valuable. In a family setting, it's crucial for navigating disagreements with understanding rather than just defensiveness, offering genuine emotional support during tough times, understanding the different perspectives and emotional landscapes that each family member naturally brings to the table.
And in leadership.
And for leadership, whether you're leading a huge corporation or a small community group, it means making decisions that genuinely consider the well-being and the long-term impact on all stakeholders, employees, customers, the community, the environment, not just the immediate bottom line or shareholder value. And doing that consistently fosters deeper trust, loyalty, and much stronger collective effort.
Yeah, trust keeps coming up.
It's central.
And the source material reinforces this directly by saying, imagine how an impartial observer would judge your actions. It promotes fairness and accountability. So it's almost like a mental exercise you can do, like hitting a pause button before you act, just to check yourself and ensure you're acting with integrity.
That's exactly right. And I'd really encourage you, the listener, to make it a practical, regular exercise. Before making significant decisions, maybe it's a big professional move, maybe a difficult conversation with a loved one, or even a smaller, everyday choice that impacts others, just pause for a moment. Actively ask yourself, how would this look to someone objective, informed, and fair? Am I being truly accountable for the potential impact of my actions, not just to myself, but to others involved? What would the impartial spectator within me say about this decision, and would I feel comfortable with their judgment?
It's like holding up a mirror.
It is. This mental rehearsal promotes conscious, ethical behavior and helps you override those immediate, potentially self-serving impulses or emotional reactions. It's about taking that crucial beat to reflect, ensuring your actions align with your own internalized sense of justice and propriety.
Okay, so let's take a deep dive into this idea now. If a society were made up of individuals who consistently engaged with their impartial spectator, who regularly consulted this inner moral compass, what kind of society does that actually create? What are the broader implications for the social fabric if lots of people started doing this more often?
Well, if we extrapolate Smith's thinking, and I think it follows logically, it would create a society built on incredibly strong foundations of trust, mutual understanding, and a shared inherent sense of justice.
Sounds pretty good.
Sounds ideal, almost. Such a society would likely require far less external regulation and heavy-handed enforcement, because individuals would be largely self-regulating their behavior based on an internalized moral code. Smith believed that this widespread cultivation of key virtues like prudence, which is wise, long-term self-care and consideration for the future, justice, respecting others' rights and property, and beneficence, act of goodwill and kindness towards others, would naturally lead to a more harmonious and inherently fair social order.
So people would just behave better.
Generally, yes. People would be more inclined to honor contracts, treat each other fairly in business and life, and contribute to the public good. Not just out of fear of punishment, but out of an inner sense of what is right, what is proper, what earns the respect of others, and crucially, their own self-respect via the impartial spectator.
That's quite a thought. Extrapolating further then, how might a stronger collective commitment to this impartial spectator principle influence things like public discourse, corporate governance, or even international relations today? Could it genuinely foster greater civility and more effective problem solving in our often very polarized world?
I really believe it could profoundly transform these areas. Take public discourse. It might shift conversations away from purely adversarial debates, where each side is just trying to win points or demonize the other, towards more empathetic attempts at actually understanding opposing viewpoints, finding common ground where possible, even amidst fundamental disagreement.
Less shouting, more listening.
Ideally, yes. If politicians, commentators, and citizens alike were to pause and consider how their words and actions would appear to an unbiased, fair observer, the level of civility, nuance, and constructiveness would likely increase dramatically. For corporate governance, it could foster a culture where decisions are inherently evaluated not just for immediate profitability, but for their broader ethical implications and societal impact, leading to more sustainable, responsible business practices that prioritize long-term value creation over short-term gain extraction.
And globally.
And in international relations, which is often dominated by naked self-interest, the collective application of an impartial spectator perspective could encourage a deeper consideration of global well-being, shared responsibilities, and the perspectives of other nations, potentially leading to more collaborative, equitable, and effective solutions to pressing global challenges like climate change, pandemics, or refugee crises. It's essentially a pathway to reducing pervasive mistrust and fostering genuine cooperation based on shared principles.
This really reframes Smith as a profoundly moral philosopher, not just an economist.
Absolutely. The two are inseparable in his thought.
Okay, this raises an important question for you, the listener, again. Think about a recent tough decision you faced, big or small. If an impartial spectator, your inner sense of fairness, were watching, what advice might they have given you? Or how might their imagined presence have perhaps shifted your approach and maybe even the eventual outcome? And looking forward, how can you integrate this inner voice, this powerful tool for self-reflection, more intentionally into your daily life?
Worth pondering.
As we transition, we've now understood how individual ambition, that enlightened self-interest, when guided by our inner moral compass, the impartial spectator, can profoundly serve society. It's a really powerful combination.
It is.
So now let's consider how we can maximize our actual contribution to that society through developing our skills and focusing our efforts effectively.
Right. And this brings us neatly to another cornerstone of Smith's economic thought, one that really underlies much of modern productivity: the power of the division of labor.
Ah, yes, the specialization idea.
Exactly. Smith famously championed this principle, where people specialize in particular tasks or skills. And the result, he showed, is a significant increase in overall output and efficiency.
And he had that incredibly famous, almost legendary example to illustrate this, didn't he? The pin factory. You almost can't talk about Adam Smith without mentioning the pin factory. You really can't.
He did.
And it's an iconic illustration for a very good reason. Imagine trying to make an entire pin from start to finish all by yourself. It sounds simple, but think about it.
Okay. Draw the wire.
Right. You'd have to perform a whole range of pretty disparate tasks. Drawing out the metal wire, straightening it properly, cutting it to the right length, grinding one end to a sharp point, somehow attaching the head, maybe even polishing the finished pin.
It's fiddly and slow. Incredibly slow and inefficient. Smith estimated an unskilled person working alone might struggle to make even one pin a day, or maybe just a few. But then he observed factories where many different people each performed one small part of that process. One person specializing only in drawing the wire, another only cutting it, another only grinding the head, and so on down the line.
The assembly line concept, basically.
The precursor to it, yes, and the collective output. It could be vastly, almost inconceivably, greater. He cited examples where just 10 workers, by specializing in this way, could produce tens of thousands of pins in a single day, thousands of times more productive than working individually.
That's an astonishing difference. So why? Why does specialization boost productivity so dramatically? What's the in-depth analysis, the underlying mechanics behind that massive increase?
Smith broke it down into 3 key interlinked reasons, which are still relevant today. First, there's increased dexterity. By repeatedly performing the exact same simple task day in and day out, workers become incredibly skilled, swift, and precise at their specific job. Their hands just know what to do.
Muscle memory.
Exactly. Think of a master artisan, or even just someone really good at typing or playing an instrument. It comes from focused repetition. Second, there's a significant saving of time. Less time is wasted by workers moving between different tasks, constantly changing tools, readjusting their position, or even just shifting their mental focus from one type of operation to another. The seamless flow from one specialized worker to the next eliminates all those little time-wasting inefficiencies.
Makes sense. Less context switching.
Precisely. And third, and perhaps most fascinatingly, Smith argued it facilitates invention. When a worker focuses intensely on just one small task, they become intimately familiar with its nuances, its challenges, its bottlenecks. This deep, close familiarity frequently leads them to think of ways to improve it, maybe inventing new tools, modifying machinery, or finding clever methods to make that specific task easier, faster, or more efficient. They are literally innovating from within the process itself.
Wow, that's genius in its simplicity and remarkably prescient. Because this concept, the division of labor, it really does underpin the efficiency of almost every modern industry, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
From massive manufacturing plants running on assembly lines to even how a complex piece of software is developed today, you have different teams specializing in coding specific components, front end, back end, database.
Or how a hospital operates with highly specialized doctors, surgeons, nurses, technicians.
It's everywhere.
It really is.
Yeah.
Modern economies, at their very core, are built upon this principle of specialization. It allows for the production of goods and services at scales, complexities, and efficiencies that Smith could only have dreamed of. It's the engine of mass production and also of high-quality specialized services.
So the direct modern application for you, the listener, seems crystal clear. Invest in learning and mastering a specific skill. It can boost your career and economic value. But this isn't just about making more money, is it? It's about becoming more impactful, more valuable, maybe even more indispensable in your chosen field.
Precisely. It's about value creation. In today's increasingly complex and competitive job market, deep expertise in a particular domain is highly, highly valued. This could be in a cutting-edge technology like AI or biotech, a specialized area within the creative arts like visual effects or specific types of music production, niche consulting for particular industries, or even highly specialized craftsmanship like restoring antique furniture or building custom instruments. The world often rewards depth over just breadth.
Find your niche.
Find your niche and excel in it. Your unique value often comes from doing something specific exceptionally well, something that not everyone can do.
And the source material we reviewed has a direct warning that goes along with that point. Kind of a classic cautionary tale. Don't spread yourself too thin trying to do everything at once. We've all probably felt that pressure trying to be good at everything.
It's a very common trap, and this warning is critical. It speaks directly to that old saying, the jack of all trades, master of none phenomenon. While versatility is certainly good and definitely has its place, particularly in certain generalist roles or perhaps earlier in one's career.
Sure, you need broad exposure sometimes.
Right. But deep specialization often leads to higher demand for your unique expertise, greater impact in your chosen field, and generally better compensation and more interesting opportunities down the line. Consider the stark difference in demand and compensation for a highly specialized neurosurgeon versus a general family doctor, Or think about a niche software developer focusing on, say, AI ethics or quantum computing algorithms versus a general IT support person.
Both are valuable.
Absolutely valuable and necessary. But the specialist often commands a different kind of market position because of their unique, concentrated expertise. It's about finding your specific edge, your area of mastery.
Okay, let's take a deeper dive here. While specialization is undeniably powerful, and the Pin Factory makes that clear, how do we balance it with the need for adaptability in today's rapidly changing world? It feels like things shift so fast now. It can't be about just learning one narrow skill for your entire life anymore, can it? We can't all be the human equivalent of pin straighteners for 50 years.
No, absolutely not. That's a nuanced but incredibly important point, especially today. The world changes too fast for static specialization. So it's less about picking one single narrow skill for a lifetime and more about mastering a domain deeply enough that you can then build upon it, continuously learn related skills, and remain agile within that broader field.
Okay, so depth plus agility.
Exactly. Think of it perhaps as becoming a T-shaped professional. You have deep expertise in one or two core areas, that's the vertical bar of the T, representing your specialization. But you also cultivate a broad understanding and foundational knowledge across other related fields, that's the horizontal bar of the T, representing your versatility and ability to connect ideas.
I like that visual. Deep but connected.
Right. This T-shape allows you to connect different ideas, collaborate effectively with other specialists who have different T-shapes, and crucially pivot or adapt when your core specialization evolves, or new technologies emerge, or market demands shift. Continuous refinement of one's core expertise alongside deliberate adjacent learning is the key to achieving both depth and adaptability in the modern world.
That makes a lot of sense, the T-shaped professional. And how do big trends like the gig economy, the rise of remote work, or the really rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, how do these further emphasize or perhaps even alter the importance of specialization? It feels like these forces are really shaking up the traditional career path for a lot of people.
They absolutely are, creating a fascinating and often quite disruptive dynamic. The gig economy, for instance, often thrives on highly specialized individuals who can offer specific, well-defined skills on demand. Think of a freelance web developer with a niche expertise in a particular programming language or framework, or a specialized content writer focusing only on the fintech industry. Or maybe a virtual assistant with unique administrative skills like advanced data analytics.
Specialists selling their skills project by project.
Exactly. Remote work then further broadens the market for these specialists, allowing them to connect with clients or employers globally, no longer limited by physical geography. Your niche market becomes the whole world, potentially.
And AI, that feels like the biggest disruptor.
It is. AI is a profound double-edged sword when it comes to specialization. On one hand, it will likely make certain routine, predictable, or easily codified specializations obsolete over time, essentially automating them away. We're seeing that already.
So some specialties disappear.
Some will diminish or disappear. However, simultaneously, AI will create entirely new, highly specialized demands. We're already seeing a huge surge in demand for roles like AI ethicists, prompt engineers who know how to talk to AI, data scientists who specialize in specific machine learning models or industries, and professionals who can build, manage, interpret, or integrate AI systems within complex human contexts.
So new specializations are born.
Absolutely. The future will likely reward those who can specialize in areas that complement AI, leverage its capabilities for higher-level tasks, or focus on intrinsically human skills like creativity, critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and complex ethical judgment areas AI struggles with. It's about specializing smartly, anticipating where human skills remain uniquely valuable.
This raises another important question for you, the listener, to consider. Thinking about your own professional or personal aspirations, maybe using that T-shaped professional model, what is one specific skill or area of knowledge you could commit to mastering or deepening in the coming months that would significantly boost your unique value and your potential contribution? We're thinking about.
Definitely.
Because the power of individual specialization is immense, as Smith showed. But, and this is but Smith was far, far from advocating for some kind of ruthless, free-for-all based solely on efficiency. He knew deeply that even the most productive individuals and the most efficient markets need a strong ethical foundation to function properly and sustainably.
This is such a critical nuance, and honestly, one that is often profoundly overlooked or, frankly, tragically misconstrued when people discuss Adam Smith's legacy, especially when they only focus on the wealth of nations.
Yeah, they missed the other half.
They miss the essential other half. Crucially, Smith didn't advocate for greed or unchecked capitalism. He warned explicitly that without ethics, markets fail. This is such a fundamental aspect of his broader philosophy, intricately interwoven with his moral sentiments from the other book. To ignore it is to fundamentally misinterpret his entire body of work and his vision for a good society.
Yeah, you definitely hear the caricature of Adam Smith sometimes, especially maybe in political debates or quick sound bites. This idea that he was all about ruthless dog-eat-dog economics, where only the strongest survive and morals don't really matter, where self-interest is basically just a polite word for selfishness and greed.
Right. The greed is good misreading.
Exactly. But you're saying that's a complete misrepresentation, that it completely misses half of his intellectual contribution and his deep concern for morality.
It absolutely is a misrepresentation. That caricature conveniently ignores the theory of moral sentiments entirely and presents a dangerously incomplete, distorted view of his actual thinking. Smith was absolutely not promoting a brutal, unregulated system where profit was the only measure of success, completely divorced from human well-being, fairness, or justice.
He saw them as connected.
Deeply connected. He understood, perhaps better than many today, that a healthy, functioning market system inherently requires a strong moral and ethical framework to sustain itself over the long term. He knew that without a shared understanding and practice of fairness, trust, and accountability, the very foundations of commerce, of cooperation would simply crumble.
Okay, so elaborate on why ethics are so indispensable for markets to function sustainably. Why exactly do they fail without them, according to Smith's logic? What breaks down?
There are several critical reasons, all deeply connected to human nature and the necessities of social interaction. First and foremost, trust. We keep coming back to it. Markets fundamentally rely on trust.
Can't function without it.
You really can't. Buyers need to trust that sellers will deliver on their promises, that products are basically as advertised and reasonably safe, and that transactions are generally fair. Employers need to trust their employees to be diligent and honest, and employees need to trust their employers to provide fair compensation and safe working conditions. Without this baseline trust, every single transaction becomes incredibly costly, fraught with risk, or simply ceases to happen altogether because everyone operates in a state of constant suspicion. Imagine a market where you couldn't trust any contractor, any seller. It would just grind to a halt.
Yeah, total paralysis. Trust is like the essential lubricant that lets the gears of commerce turn smoothly. Without it, everything just grinds and jams.
Perfectly put. Secondly, Smith emphasized predictability. Ethical behavior, things like honoring contracts, telling the truth, following established rules, creates predictable environments. This predictability is essential because it allows businesses to plan for the future with some confidence, make long-term investments in equipment or research, and innovate without constantly worrying about being cheated or facing rampant fraud, corruption, or completely unfair dealings from competitors or partners. Predictability lowers risk.
Okay, trust and predictability. What else?
Thirdly, long-term stability. History shows that unchecked greed and a complete absence of ethics inevitably lead to wild boom-bust cycles, widespread exploitation of people and resources, and ultimately often a breakdown of the entire system. Ethics provide the essential guardrails for long-term health and societal resilience. They prevent the system from essentially consuming itself through unsustainable practices or widespread malfeasance that destroys public confidence.
Like burning the foundations you stand on.
Exactly. And finally, and very importantly to Smith, the moral philosopher, ethics are crucial for preventing exploitation. Smith was genuinely, deeply concerned with the welfare of all members of society, not just the wealthy landowners or merchants. He wrote powerfully about the plight of workers. Ethical frameworks supported by just laws are necessary to prevent the powerful from unjustly exploiting the vulnerable, ensuring that the benefits of market activity are distributed more broadly, or at the very least, that basic opportunities are not unjustly denied to those without economic or political power.
Yeah, we've certainly seen enough examples throughout history, and even quite recently, where a significant lack of ethics, whether in financial institutions, corporate accounting practices, environmental standards, or global supply chains, has led directly to massive market instability, full-blown financial crises, or a really significant damaging erosion of public trust in major institutions.
Absolutely.
It's often not just about a few bad apples. It can become a systemic failure driven by a decay in those moral foundations when the ethical guardrails are ignored or dismantled.
Indeed. We saw this very clearly during the 2008 financial crisis, for example. Predatory lending practices, complex financial instruments nobody truly understood being sold without transparency, a widespread disregard for long-term ethical implications, and a shocking lack of accountability at the top. All of this eroded public trust and led to a systemic collapse that impacted millions of ordinary people worldwide.
Stark example.
Or think back to the Enron scandal in the early 2000s, perhaps a classic case where a relentless obsessive focus on short-term profits and stock price, completely detached from any ethical compass, led to systemic accounting fraud on a massive scale. The fallout was huge, not just financially, but in terms of widespread public disillusionment with corporate America. These instances serve as powerful, painful reminders that robust economic growth simply cannot be sustained over the long haul without a foundational bedrock of integrity, transparency, and responsibility. The integrated lessons from Smith's two great works remain acutely relevant.
Okay, so this brings us to a very clear call to action for you, the listener, stemming directly from this understanding. Support ethical consumption, fair labor, and transparent systems. This implies that our individual choices, when aggregated, actually have collective power to shape the market for the better.
Indeed. Consumer power is immense, and I think often underestimated by individuals who feel their single choice doesn't matter, but it adds up. Ethical consumption means making conscious, informed decisions about what you buy and, importantly, from whom you buy it.
Doing a bit of homework.
Doing a bit of homework, exactly. This involves actively supporting companies that demonstrate strong ethical records, those that prioritize things like fair trade certification, sustainable production methods, responsible and transparent supply chains. It's about literally voting with your wallet every day for the kind of market and the kind of world you want to see.
Okay, ethical consumption. What else?
Then there's fair labor. Being aware of, and where possible, advocating for fair wages, safe working conditions, and basic respect for human rights throughout global supply chains, which are often opaque. This might mean researching brands before you buy, actively seeking out products certified by independent ethical labor standards organizations, or supporting campaigns that push for better conditions. And finally, transparent systems. This means actively demanding clarity and honesty. Honesty in advertising, fair and understandable pricing, accurate corporate reporting on environmental and social impacts, and robust accountability from institutions, whether they are businesses or governments. It's about creating a level playing field built on truth and accessible information.
So it's definitely not just about passively hoping for change from the top down. The source material says, don't just chase profits, advocate for fair practices and corporate accountability. What does advocacy mean for the average person? It sounds potentially intimidating, but what can it look like beyond just buying ethically?
Advocacy can take many different forms, and it absolutely goes beyond individual purchasing power, though that's important too. It could be as simple as researching companies before making significant purchases or before investing, and consciously choosing those that demonstrably align with your values, and perhaps even letting companies know why you didn't choose them.
Using your voice.
Using your voice. It could mean engaging in informed, respectful discussions within your community, on social media platforms, or even directly with your elected representatives about the importance of corporate responsibility and the potential need for stronger ethical guidelines or regulations in certain areas. It might involve supporting legislative efforts aimed at improving labor standards, environmental protections, or corporate transparency laws. It's fundamentally about using your voice and your actions, however small they might seem individually, to signal clearly to the market and to policymakers that ethical conduct matters, not just short-term profitability. This collective pressure, when sustained and informed, can be a profoundly powerful force for positive systemic change, pushing markets to embody more of Smith's balanced vision for an ethical and prosperous system.
Let's deep dive for a moment into the dynamic between rules and morals here. We have legal frameworks, the laws on the books, which are often described as the letter of the law. But then we have these broader ethical norms which seem to embody the spirit of behavior. How do these two things interact, and why are both absolutely necessary for a truly healthy, sustainable market and society? You can't just have one, right?
No, you definitely need both. And this is a crucial distinction that Smith, with his background in moral philosophy, understood implicitly. While laws provide a necessary baseline, a minimum standard of conduct that is hopefully enforceable through sanctions and penalties, ethics often push far, far beyond these minimum legal requirements.
Laws are the floor, not the ceiling.
Exactly. Laws are often reactive. They're frequently slow to adapt to new technologies, new business models, or emerging societal challenges, and they simply cannot possibly cover every conceivable situation or every subtle nuance of human interaction and responsibility. Ethical norms, on the other hand, guide behavior in the vast, complex spaces where laws do not yet reach, or where laws are simply insufficient or too blunt to capture the full spectrum of moral responsibility.
They fill the gaps.
They fill the critical gaps. They foster a truly robust and trustworthy economic and social environment by encouraging integrity, fairness, and responsibility, not just because it's legally mandated and you might get caught, but because it's intrinsically the right thing to do, because it aligns with our sense of propriety via the impartial spectator, and because it's conducive to long-term individual and collective well-being. Ethical frameworks ensure that even when something is technically legal, it might still be unethical, and societies truly thrive when their members and institutions consistently aim for ethical behavior that exceeds mere legal compliance. It's the vital difference, as you said, between doing what you must do to avoid punishment and doing what you should do to be a good person and contribute positively.
That's a really profound point. The law sets the minimum, ethics sets the aspiration. So thinking practically again, how can society encourage businesses, and maybe individuals too, to prioritize ethics, not just as a fleeting marketing strategy, which we sometimes see, right? A kind of superficial ethics washing or greenwashing, but how do we encourage ethics as an intrinsic, deeply ingrained part of their operational DNA? What's the role of consumer pressure, maybe investor activism, and perhaps most importantly, internal corporate culture in fostering this fundamental shift?
It's definitely a multifaceted challenge requiring effort on multiple fronts, but I do believe it's achievable. Consumer pressure, as we've discussed, is vital. Consistent, informed, and vocal demand for ethical products, services, and corporate behavior forces businesses to adapt or risk losing significant market share and damaging their reputation. This is why voting with your wallet and making those choices known is so potentially powerful.
Okay, consumers have a role. What about investors?
Investor activism is another increasingly powerful lever. Shareholders, particularly large institutional investors, are more and more actively pushing for strong environmental, social, and governance (ESG) considerations to be integrated into corporate strategy and executive compensation. By making investment decisions based partly on ethical performance and long-term sustainability metrics, investors can compel companies to change from within as it directly impacts their access to capital and their stock valuation. Money talks.
Right, and what about inside the company itself?
But perhaps the most transformative approach, and arguably the one most aligned with Smith's emphasis on internalized morality, is fostering a strong internal corporate culture of ethics. When ethical principles are truly embedded in a company's core values, its stated mission, its strategic vision, and crucially, its daily operations and incentive structures, from the top leadership demonstrating it consistently, right down to every employee, then ethics becomes an organic part of decision-making, rather than just a performative exercise, a compliance checklist, or something the PR department talks about.
It has to be real.
It has to be real. This requires strong ethical leadership by example, clear and consistently applied codes of conduct, regular ethics training that goes beyond ticking boxes, and importantly, systems that genuinely reward ethical behavior and transparently investigate and discourage misconduct, regardless of who is involved. It's about intentionally building a company where the impartial spectator is, in a sense, woven into every business process, guiding collective action and fostering a shared commitment to integrity that goes beyond just following the law.
This raises another important question for you, the listener. Beyond simply obeying laws and trying to support ethical businesses as a consumer, what's one tangible way you personally can actively support or advocate for a more ethical market system in your everyday life, starting today? Something concrete you could do. Let me think about that for a moment.
Small actions add up.
Because this whole idea that the grand societal systems, like markets, need these deep ethical underpinnings naturally leads us, I think, to Smith's ultimate conclusion that these ethics, these improvements, these virtuous cycles we've been talking about, they fundamentally stem from the choices, the character, and the self-improvement of individuals.
This is truly the unifying thread of Adam Smith's entire philosophy, I believe. It's the profound synthesis that beautifully brings together his seemingly disparate economic and moral thinking. He held a profound, deeply optimistic belief that individuals improving their lives morally, intellectually, skillfully can lead directly to collective progress. It's the ultimate culmination of his life's work. It's seamlessly bridging the theory of moral sentiments with the wealth of nations.
Okay, so it posits a kind of virtuous cycle then. Can you elaborate on that? How exactly does personal growth translate into broader societal gain in Smith's view?
Yes, exactly, a virtuous cycle. Smith believed that when individuals cultivate what he called enlightened self-interest, Remember, that's the ambition to pursue their own goals, but crucially tempered by their moral sentiments, empathy, justice, and guided by their internal impartial spectator. And when they then combine that with specializing, their efforts to become highly productive and skilled in a particular area,
Putting it all together.
they don't only achieve personal success and individual flourishing, though that's part of it, they also contribute, often significantly and sometimes in ways they don't even fully realize or intend, to the overall well-being and prosperity of their immediate community and indeed society at large.
The ripple effect again.
The ripple effect writ large. And this fundamentally counters the sometimes cynical idea that societal change only comes from top-down policies or massive government interventions or grand sweeping social movements. While those can certainly be important drivers of change,
Smith saw power in the individual.
Smith emphasizes that individual agency, the cumulative effect of millions of people striving to better themselves and act ethically, is an incredibly powerful cumulative force for good. Your efforts, your choices, your character, they aren't just for you. They feed into something larger, creating positive ripple effects that extend far beyond your immediate sphere. This perspective fosters, I think, a deep sense of personal responsibility, but also genuine empowerment, because your individual choices truly matter on a societal level.
This leads us then to the very practical, actionable advice for you, the listener, advice that really ties everything we've discussed together, from enlightened self-interest and the impartial spectator to specialization, bringing it right back to the individual level. Invest in personal growth, education, and habits that make you productive and responsible. It sounds simple, but it feels like a powerful roadmap for positive impact based on Smith.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to understand this isn't just about career advancement or earning more money, although those can be outcomes. It's about holistic self-improvement that benefits both you and those around you. Personal growth, for instance, can involve deliberately developing your emotional intelligence to navigate complex social situations more effectively. It could be practicing mindfulness to improve your focus, reduce stress, and make more considered decisions. Enhancing your communication skills for better relationships and clearer expression of ideas. Or cultivating resilience to bounce back from challenges and setbacks.
Things that make you a better human, essentially.
Exactly. Education means embracing continuous learning, whether that's through formal courses, reading widely on diverse topics, picking up new technical or soft skills relevant to your field or just your interests. And productive habits encompass a whole range of things, from effective time management and consistent goal setting, to developing financial literacy and planning for the future, to maintaining your physical and mental well-being through exercise, sleep, and stress management. All of these seemingly personal investments contribute significantly to your capacity to contribute more effectively, not just to your own life, but to your work, your family, and your community. Smith himself emphasized key virtues like prudence, that wise, long-term consideration for yourself and others, justice, always respecting the rights and dignity of others, and beneficence, actively seeking opportunities to do good for others, all of which contribute to being a productive and responsible member of society.
And the source material we looked at really emphasizes the direct benefit to others that comes from this self-improvement. By doing well, you can also do good, creating ripple effects in your family and community. And crucially, this isn't necessarily about traditional charity in the sense of just giving money away, although that can be part of it. It's more about the natural, positive outflow that comes from disciplined self-improvement and consistent ethical conduct in your daily life.
It's a profoundly optimistic thought from Smith, isn't it? That simply by striving to be better ourselves, we make the world better. Consider how a disciplined approach to your own health and well-being might not only benefit you, but also inspire family members or friends to adopt healthier habits, creating a more vibrant and supportive household or social circle.
Sure, leading by example.
Leading by example. Or think about how mastering a new skill makes you a more valuable and reliable team member at work. That doesn't just benefit you. It might free up colleagues to focus on other tasks, boost the team's collective productivity, perhaps even create new opportunities for the whole group or company. Even simply striving to be a more responsible and engaged citizen, voting thoughtfully after doing your research, volunteering your time in a way that genuinely leverages your skills, participating respectfully in public discourse even when you disagree, or simply being a good, reliable neighbor. That's a form of doing well for yourself, living according to your values, that ultimately does good for the collective fabric of society.
So it doesn't have to be grand, heroic gestures.
No, not at all. It's often about the consistent positive contributions in our everyday roles and interactions. These multiply over time, strengthening the social bonds, building trust, and reinforcing the economic fabric around you in ways we often don't even see directly.
Okay, let's take a final deep dive then into the power of these subtle ripple effects and this idea of collective virtue emerging from individual action. Because it's not always obvious, is it, how individual improvements really propagate, how our personal choices can have such potentially far-reaching, sometimes almost unseen benefits for the whole system.
No, it's often nonlinear and subtly profound, much like Smith's invisible hand itself operating in the economic sphere. It's not just about direct, easily measurable actions like donating a specific amount to charity or volunteering for a set number of hours, though again, those are valuable contributions. It's also about the quieter, pervasive, positive influence you exert, simply by your example.
Like setting a standard.
Exactly, setting a standard. The inspiration you might provide to those around you, colleagues, friends, family, through your diligence, your integrity, your commitment to learning, or your empathetic way of dealing with people. It's about the creation of a more productive, more responsible, and more ethical environment for everyone in your sphere, simply by being the best, most principled version of yourself you can be. Small, consistent improvements, like striving to be more reliable, more empathetic, more skilled, more thoughtful in your interactions, they don't just add up arithmetically, they often multiply synergistically. They help raise the tide for everyone around you, fostering a culture where excellence, responsibility, and ethical conduct become more the norm rather than the exception. This, I think, is the true power and beauty of Smith's integrated philosophy when fully understood.
So, taking that to its logical conclusion, if a significant portion of society genuinely committed to this principle, if enough individuals truly embrace this balance of enlightened self-interest, continuous self-improvement, and moral cultivation guided by the impartial spectator, how might that fundamentally alter the social fabric? Could it realistically lead to greater civic engagement, maybe less cynicism, or even shift the priorities of our collective endeavors beyond purely economic growth towards something broader?
I believe it would be transformative in the most fundamental ways. A society where a significant number of individuals are actively investing in their personal growth, intellectually, morally, skillfully, acting consistently with enlightened self-interest, tempered by strong moral sentiments, and specializing their efforts to contribute their best, that society would naturally foster a much stronger, more resilient, and more trusting social fabric.
Less friction, maybe.
Less friction, less cynicism, certainly. Greater mutual respect, and a heightened sense of shared responsibility for collective well-being, rather than just individual gain. This could indeed lead directly to greater civic engagement, because individuals would likely feel more empowered, more connected to their communities, and genuinely believe their efforts matter and can make a difference. And yes, I think it could even significantly shift the priorities of our collective endeavors. Perhaps moving beyond a narrow focus on purely material accumulation or GDP growth towards broader goals like societal flourishing, innovation directed toward the common good, genuinely sustainable growth, environmental stewardship, and perhaps even a renewed focus on cultivating civic virtue itself, because the individuals within that society would intrinsically value these things more highly. It's a vision of a truly flourishing society built organically from the ground up, one responsible, self-aware choice at a time.
That's a really powerful and, frankly, quite hopeful vision to end on. It truly captures the essence of Adam Smith's holistic philosophy, which is so much richer than the caricature. We've journeyed through Adam Smith's multifaceted wisdom today, moving far beyond that simple, often misleading picture of economic man.
We peeled back some layers.
We definitely did. And what we've uncovered is a profoundly humanistic philosophy underneath. It teaches us that a truly successful, ethical, and sustainable life, both for individuals and for societies, hinges on achieving a delicate but powerful balance. Balancing our natural personal ambition with genuine moral responsibility, practicing empathy and critical self-reflection through that inner impartial spectator, continuously specializing and improving our unique skills and contributions, and consistently advocating for fairness and ethics in all our economic and social relationships.
And ultimately, it's about understanding, as Smith did, that improving ourselves and our character, our knowledge, and our capabilities is, in its deepest sense, a fundamental act of improving the world around us. It's an incredibly empowering message, I think.
It really is. So here's a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. If Adam Smith, with his keen observational skills and his integrated view of morality and economics, were observing our world today with all its incredible complexities, its technological advancements, its deep divisions, its global challenges, where do you think he would focus his greatest attention? Where would he see the biggest imbalance between individual pursuit and collective well-being? And what modern challenge do you think he would apply his core ideas of enlightened self-interest and the impartial spectator to first, to help us navigate it more wisely?
That's a fascinating question. And the insights we've uncovered today are really just scratching the surface, just the tip of the iceberg of Adam Smith's rich and incredibly relevant philosophy. We strongly encourage you, if this has piqued your interest, to delve deeper. Perhaps even pick up a copy of The Theory of Moral Sentiments. It's surprisingly readable to truly appreciate the depth, the nuance, and the essential balance of his thought.
Absolutely. We hope this deep dive has provided you with a powerful new lens, a different way to view your own ambitions, your interactions with others, and the complex world around you. We're confident that these insights, drawn from Smith's enduring wisdom, can help you navigate your own path with greater purpose, more integrity, and ultimately a more positive impact.
Thank you for joining us on this enlightening exploration of Adam Smith.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.